Good. So for this session, we're going to talk about users and groups best practices. So we all have to deal with users, and we suggest using groups to every user of Issuetrak, just to make it easier, to control permissions easier, to control visibility. We use groups for a lot of different purposes. So what I'm going to do is go into the users first, kind of talk about different user types, creating users. So here's our user summary. We're going to go ahead and add a user, and kind of want to talk about the user type so that we have end users and agents. So our licensed users are agents. As you can see, the agent permission is grayed out. If we come up here, we can select an agent user, and we can add these permissions. I don't recommend adding permissions to a specific user. We like to control permissions through the groups. So basically, when we're adding an agent or an end user, I'll usually take away every permission. I'll even take away the menu options allowed and just give them very basic rights. After a user is created, we like to add them to the appropriate groups that they need memberships to. If you have similar users that need similar rights, we can create a user and then clone that user. The group memberships will come over. So I just wanted to mention that. So we're going to go back to our user summary, and you can see here I'm using the bookmarks, and these are fairly new feature. I just wanted to mention. We have the bookmarks here. It's menu options that you use most often. You can also bookmark reports, certain issues that you're working on that are important. You can bookmark here just to get to them quickly, and then you can unbookmark them when they're closed. You don't need to get to them anymore. So we're going to go to the user summary again. You can see we have our count of agents and end users. And for this demonstration, I've created a district manager. So we have a district manager. They need to see a bunch of different types of issues in the system, maybe not give them administration rights, but just kind of oversee issues. So you can see we've got their organizations here, like Mike described. So when you're on the issue view, you're not really editing, so you're not adding, but you can see here on the issue view that they have this organization memberships, and they can go in and edit the issues of all of the organizations that you put them on, or their memberships of. We also have groups. So here's the groups like we're talking about, and you can see we have a naming convention going on for these groups. And I kind of like to think about groups in Issuetrak. If you're familiar with Active Directory structure, kind of security groups that give them different rights to different things in your organization or on that network. So we kind of like to add groups as we see fit to these users. Groups do not take away any rights, they only add on to the rights. And as you can see, they're part of these group memberships, but when you're in the user view section, you can see what group is giving them each right here. So as you scroll down, all the checkboxes are being added through groups. So like we've created a task group in here. So we get real granular with these groups and the permissions that they give. So you can see the task group list. They have all the tasks available. We also have a reporting group, and they're going to get all the reporting permissions. So we kind of like to set the groups up like that. So that's groups that are giving permissions. So we have different types of groups. We like to use groups for visibility. So maybe they need to see all of a certain issue type. So we'll create groups that way. Maybe groups for assignments. So like a tasking group or a finance group. And that will maybe give them certain tasks on issues. So you can assign tasks to groups or users. Notifications. So anything submitted for a certain issue type, maybe they need to be notified of. And we also have round robin groups. So I'm going to go into a couple of those in just a moment. I did want to mention the user ID maintenance. So underneath these maintenance, with these new organizations, you may have some leftover users that you want to merge now that, so say you had a user that's in 3 different organizations. Well, they had 3 different logins. So you would want to merge these duplicate users. So you could come in here and select the primary user. This is the user you want to keep. And then you would do a secondary user. And this is the user that they're replacing or actually merging together. And I would suggest deleting after processing once you merge those users. We also have here under maintenance where you can change the user ID. Because you cannot edit a user and change their ID, you're going to have to put in their original user ID and their new user ID. So this is just a little maintenance that you can do. And especially with these new organizations, it may be necessary to merge some duplicate users. Those merges will also bring in and merge all their issues together. Pretty much all the history of that user will be merged. Of those two users will be merged into one. So just a little tip there. So now we're going to look at the groups. So you can see here under related links. Also, these related links, a lot of times, if you're trying to find something, you're going to find it in these related links. So we've got our groups list here, and we kind of use a good naming convention. For permissions, for visibility, you can kind of see the P's are giving permission, and you can see that can edit issues. So if we want a user to edit issues, we're going to make them a member of this group. This is a visibility group, so the finance group can see all of the finance issue types, and also be on the distribution list, so they can kind of get visibility through the distribution list. So you really want to create a good naming convention. Also, you can have agent-only groups and any groups. So only agents can be added to these agent-only groups, and this is where you can assign groups out on issues and tasks and whatnot. So using groups for permissions. So like this can edit issues. We simply just came in here, gave the group one permission, can edit issues, good naming convention. So you know when looking at a user and their groups, kind of what permissions they have. And like I discussed, next to the permissions will be the group name that's giving them those permissions. We want to talk about visibility. So adding users to distribution lists and adding groups to distribution lists. So we have issue types. We have the finance issue type here. So when we edit this finance, say we want the finance group to see it. Well, every time a finance issue is submitted, this group is going to be notified. So we have that capability with groups as well. The email notifications, a lot of times you're going to want to, then a user will be like, why did I get this email? Or why didn't I get this email? You can check the outgoing email distribution lists, and there's a couple different ways you could see how a user's getting email. So on the email section, let's see, we have the issue notifications, right? So here's our default, and this kind of defines what roles on the issue and what actions are taken for them to get an email notification or even a mobile text message. This default, when you add a user or a group to a distribution list, this default is going to go in place, so you don't have to edit it. So every time you add, they're going to get on, note, on close. So you can edit the default list and change it, but every time you add someone to a distribution list, they're going to get these as the defaults. So you can go in here and edit that if you need to. The next place we can see how a user is getting notifications is actually the all issue notifications. So I've set a bunch of notifications up in here, and you can see it shows the standard default at the top. Then if we scroll down, we can see the department information technology. We added the agent user group to that, and they're going to get an email on note and close. Got the finance department. This is the one I showed you where we set it up. So this is a good way to see all the distribution lists in Issuetrak and who's actually getting notified. So you can kind of see that district manager user that I created. They're on a lot of distribution lists. There's also another way to see the user's distribution lists. That's going to be like looking at the user record. So we're going to go back to here at the user summary. We'll look at that district manager one more time. So here's a new capability that we have that we didn't have before. I believe it came in 14.1 or 2, 14.2, yeah. So we have distribution lists. So you can easily see from the user view exactly the distribution list they're on and what they're being notified on for each of those distribution lists. You can see this one, organization IT, they're not getting any action. This is just so they can actually view issues in that organization. We used to do it this way. Now with the organization memberships, we can actually add the district manager to the IT organization so that they can actually see those issues. And like Mike stated before, you can allow them to edit the issues or see the users if you feel they need that capability. So I'm going to show you kind of how to add users to groups. We can add users to groups, or we can add groups to users. I prefer adding groups to users, but we can show you how each works. So when we edit a user, we'll edit this district manager. Of course, Mike showed you the organizations and how you can pull those over. It's kind of the same way with the groups. So we can add groups here. Any groups that they're not a member of will show up in here. So we can quickly add them to multiple groups at once. So now they're in every group in Issuetrak. So now you can simply, if you want to remove them from the group, you can do that as well here. Just take away their permissions and their group memberships. Another way to add users is from the group itself. So if we go down here to groups, say we want to give them, actually, I think I took them away from the dashboard. We'll give them the dashboard. So if you edit the group, we can click on this view maintain member list. See Mike, user Mike is already in here on the dashboard. We can add members here, do the district manager or any other users we want to add and update. So that goes over like adding users to groups or adding groups to users, whichever way you want to go about it. Also, we can add, we should be able to add users to organizations. So, and then organizations to users, it's kind of the same way. So that's a new functionality in here. So I believe if we edit facilities, we can see this view maintain member list. So now we call it memberships now. So we can actually add members to organizations just like we add members to groups. So you can see in here, we can put Patrick in here, we'll add that member. So it's just that simple. We've given you more flexibility on this functionality of adding organizations to users and users to organizations, and also a greater ability for the group functionality. Does anyone have any questions?
This is a good opportunity too, if you have anything that's related to users at all, good opportunity to ask Patrick or myself about anything having to do with the users and user management. Well, okay, I guess we're going to go ahead and move into just a straight question and answer. So if you have any questions at all related to Issuetrak, let's go ahead and open up the floor and see what you have for any kind of questions today. And again, make sure you go out to the user network in order to interact with other users and also provide us some good feedback on here too. Okay, the question from Jessica wanted to come back and say and ask the question, if you already covered this, if a user doesn't have can edit permissions, can they still add notes to issues that they can view? I think it depends on how that membership is defined. If it's through an email distribution list, the answer is definitely yes still. So that doesn't change. However, if it's done through the membership, it depends on the way you've got the membership configured, from what I understand. Patrick, is that what you understand it too? They've got to have that ability to edit in order
Yes.
to add that note. Is what has to happen. So if they don't have the edit capability, should not be able to do anything but view the issue itself. Not even if they have can edit permission.
Correct. Correct. Yep. Also, we have Alex. He's asking about auto assigning issues in multiple organizations to one user potentially. So auto assigning issues in multiple organizations to one.
You have to, you can do it, but you have to set up multiple rules. That's what you still have to do. You'll still have to set up multiple rules to do that. It's possible. It's possible. You just have to go into business rules and set up a rule for every organization you want to go to that
That's
one.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the auto assignments don't change functionality.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't, the membership doesn't help us here in this particular case. It's not really designed for that functionality. So, but yeah, just keep setting them up. You'll be good to go.
Okay.
And Jessica's asking the question, can an issue be submitted against more than one organization or only one? The answer to that, I believe, it's only one organization still per issue.
Yeah, the issue is only associated with one organization.
If you needed to associate an issue with more than one organization, the way I would do it is either clone the issue and then add the organization, and then I would do some sort of linking, whether it happens to be through the related issues or the associated issues capability or through the global issues, so that you can make sure that they're all the same. We have had certain situations, especially with the global issues, where that was definitely something that you wanted to do, where you would have multiple issues associated with one problem and submitted underneath different users in different organizations. It's still the same problem. So you just have to figure out which way is best in your particular case. No problem.
All right, you're welcome.
Any other questions from the attendees today? Well, I'm not going to keep you all that long. I think we can go ahead and wrap this up. What do you think, Patrick?
That sounds good.
We want to go ahead, like I said, we're trying to be a little bit more responsive to your needs and not have to keep you for an hour and a half anymore. So we're going to try to keep these around an hour in length. However, again, if you understand, Patrick and I are always here to help you out for anything that you need. Please send us any emails that you need. If you have questions, we're always willing to answer. As many of you know that's on this list of attendees today, we've responded to you many times over the years. So please continue to reach out to us and continue to keep involved. Again, we'll respond to issues if they come through the user network or wherever they come from. They'll get to us if you need to, or go directly to the support team. Always encourage you to use our support team. They're very knowledgeable, they're very experienced, and they can always reach out to us if needed, which they generally don't, to be honest with you. It's got to be something really unusual for them to need us. They're very well trained and very well involved in working with Issuetrak, or they'll just go to the dev team, forget about us altogether. But yeah, please continue to be involved with us, continue to engage with us in whichever way you can, because we want to make Issuetrak a major part of your business and keep our relationship strong over the years. So I want to thank you for attending today. I want to thank you for your time, and hopefully you continue to find these to be very useful. And until next month, we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.